Hey, meaningful movers. Welcome back to Moving with Meaning, the podcast, where actions have meaning, words have meaning, and we open up the conversations to discover what's your next move. I'm your host, Krystal. In today's episode, let's dive into the saying of being down, but not out. But you know how it is, and what we do, we need to set that thing. So let's go ahead and do that. The word of the day is tenacity. Sure, this is all about determination and persistence to keep going. However, let's reword that and say this is the determination to not give up so easily. You can pick at my confidence, verbally assault me, and critique every decision I make. But my standard of excellence compared to the naysayers? That's enough of me talking. How about we introduce our guest? And there's no one better to do that than herself. Teri, why don't you go ahead and give the people a bit of background about yourself and what you're going to share with us today?
All right. Thank you for having me here today, Krystal. My name's Teri Brown, and I am an author. I started writing, I've been writing off and on my whole life. I wrote really horrible poetry as a teenager. I actually found some the other day. It makes you kind of cringe a little. Then I kind of left writing in the dust for a while. I was busy. I had 4 children, and I was raising them, and I was dealing with 2 bad marriages. One just because I was a poor chooser. My husband and I produced 4 beautiful children, but we were not compatible. And then I remarried, and it was a horrible relationship, and it was emotionally abusive. And so I finally got out of that relationship, and when I did, words started pouring out of me. And so I started writing. But one doesn't write books and then throw them out into the world as this damaged person that I was, because I came out of that emotionally abusive relationship as a damaged individual who didn't believe in my worth and didn't believe that I had any value and kind of thought my life was over. In the meantime, I meet Bruce, who became my husband. I was never getting married again. That could be a podcast all by itself. Yeah. And he tells everyone that he chased me until I caught him. He just was there. He just wouldn't go away. And before long, we were together, and he was exactly what I needed in my life. He had this idea for an adventure where he wanted to ride across the United States on a bicycle. And I had been wanting to do something big and bold because I thought I needed to prove to people that I still had worth. Turns out I needed to prove that to me. No one else really doubted it but me. But anyway, I jumped on that and I said, is that really something you want to do? And before long, we had determined that we were going to ride across the United States on a tandem bicycle, which we did in the summer of 2020. And as I'm finishing up that epic adventure, which is what this book is about that we'll talk about today, but as we finish up this epic adventure, I had this epiphany. I just rode across the United States on a tandem bicycle. If I can do that, I can do anything. It's not a matter of can I, but what do I want to do? And I decided I wanted to be an author. So in January of 2022, my first book came out. I haven't looked back.
Wow. I don't know why. For some reason, I thought you had been an author for a while, for a minute.
No. So yeah, I mean, I've January 20, so that's 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have 3 novels out, and now I have the 10 Little Rules for a Double-Butted Adventure, which is kind of this memoir / self-help / inspirational guided journaling book, right? And I even have a children's book that I have almost ready. I think it will be out at the end of the spring.
Well, you weren't kidding when you said them words were pouring out of you.
They were. They're falling out of me.
That's fantastic. And I just think people's stories are so remarkable. You know, we watch Lifetime. You watch Lifetime, and I'm looking at this and I'm like, this stuff couldn't have really happened. And it does, and you meet someone and they have so much knowledge going on inside them. Well, before we get into this, what is a tandem bicycle?
So a tandem bicycle is a 2-seater.
Okay.
So it looks like a regular bicycle, but it has 2 seats on it. So a lot of people think of them as like the romantic bicycle, you go for, except that it's not really, okay? I mean, it might be romantic if you're going for a half mile or so on a bicycle and at the end of it you have a picnic. But when you're talking about riding across the United States and we have all of our gear and we're pulling a trailer and you have to work together every single moment.
Yes.
You can't go any faster than the slowest person. And then not only that, because we camped the whole way across the United States, we did everything together. So we had to set up the tent, and we had to get all of our stuff washed and hung, our food prepped and all of that. So a lot of people will tell you that a tandem bicycle is actually a divorce machine. And it's funny because that is not what happened to Bruce and I. We actually became much closer. And I tell people that in the 3 months that we went across the United States, we experienced something I call tandem time, which means that 3 months was equivalent to 20 years of marriage. Because we learned a lot about one another. We had to work together. We had to learn to solve our issues immediately, because you can't ride angry. You've got to figure that out, right?
Right.
And so, we got 20 years of marriage in a 3-month block of time.
Were you guys married during
We
this?
were married. We had been married 15 months when we left.
Okay, that's still honeymoon period time.
It
for me,
is,
honey.
yeah.
Okay. I guess, why did you feel that you had to do this to kind of say, and it's just anything, it didn't have to be this, but that you just, if you still had it in you?
I mean, I think it's because, I was in this emotionally abusive relationship where I had been beaten down so much that I could hardly pick what peanut butter I was going to buy in a grocery store. You stand there and you think chunky or smooth, should it be Jif or should it be Peter Pan, or maybe I should just get the store brand. I mean, that's the way I felt. And it was just because for so long, whatever decision I made, and it didn't matter what it was bashed.
Yeah.
So I got out of that horrible relationship, but now I'm still this quivering mass of I don't even know what I'm supposed to do. And I really did for several months. I kept thinking, I have nothing left. I'm going to be a grandma. I knew I was about to become a grandmother, and I thought, that's it. That's what my life is going to consist of. I'm going to be alone, and I'm going to be a grandmother, and I'm going to do nothing else. I'm just going to exist until I die. And I didn't like that idea, because there was still enough of me tucked in there somewhere that was screaming, this can't be true, this can't be true. And so I had a friend of my son's, actually, who walked the Appalachian Trail. And I started reading his blogs as he was going. And I thought, oh, that's what I need. I need to do something big and bold and an adventure, something like crazy.
Yeah.
I considered walking the Appalachian Trail and then thought, that is so not me, because it's a very solitary thing. And I thought, as a woman, who's pushing 60 years old, to get out there and walk on it, I don't know if that's good for me. Then I met Bruce, and he started talking about the idea that he had always wanted to ride across the United States on a bicycle. And I thought, that could be an adventure, right? Yeah. I mean, that's about as good as walking the Appalachian Trail. And so that's kind of where it was. But I thought I was having to prove to other people.
Yeah.
I felt like other people were judging me, and other people felt that I didn't have any value or worth. And as it turns out, no one else had that feeling at all. It was just me.
Yeah.
While riding across the United States, first of all, you get into situations that are very difficult. And you have to dig really deep, and you have to find things you didn't even know you had in order to kind of get through this. And you have a lot of time. You're on I was on the back, and I'm on the back, and you're pedaling, but there's a lot of time for thinking and introspection. By the time I made it across the United States, Bruce will be the first person to tell you that I was a different person. He would tell everyone, the woman who started the trip is not the woman who ended the trip. You just have a lot of time to figure yourself out.
Yeah. Time. What does someone say? It's the one time that we want more of, but we can't. Yeah, and that's great use of time. It really is. Well, I guess I think we need to be talking about this book and the reflections. I always look at the first chapter and the title. And I love this because it's got to grab you, right? So I'm looking at this and it says, open your mind. But in like the first couple sentences, it's like, yeah, you think you know what this means, but you don't.
But you don't.
Tell me what it means.
Right. So 10 little rules for a double-butted adventure. I came up with double-butted adventure as kind of our name because I was going to keep a blog and you had to do something, to make it fun. And so I'm this creative person. I said double-butted adventure because, of course, there's two seats, double butts, right? Funny, right? So I go to my husband and I say, what do you think if we call ourselves double-butted adventure? And he says, oh, perfect. I didn't know you knew about double-butted steel. And I said, what?
What? Yeah.
And he said, yeah, there's double-butted tubing that they use to make tandem bicycles. And it has something to do with, now, I only understand it just slightly, but it has something to do with the steel has to be thinner in the middle and thicker on the ends. Thinner in the middle so it doesn't weigh as much, thicker on the ends so that you can connect it where it needs to be. And so they use this double-butted tubing to make tandem bicycles. Well, he's an engineer and he knows that. And so he had this idea that that's why we'd be double-butted. And it's like, no, I'm talking about 2 seats, right? My point here is, we could have definitely fought over this as to which way do we mean double-butted. But instead, I thought, isn't this perfect? He has it for his reasons. I have it for my reasons. And we put it together and it makes an incredible story because when we put he and I together, we made an incredible story. So why fight? In that first chapter was the story of the elephant. Where there are these blind men who experience an elephant for the first time. But they each describe it after only touching one portion of the elephant. So did they touch the knee or did they touch the trunk? Did they touch the tusk? Did they touch the tail? Did they touch the ear? And depending on where they touched, they had a completely different idea of what an elephant was. Right? So we can laugh at that and say, well, we all know that an elephant isn't like a sharp knife, but someone who only touched the tusk, that's what they would know. And that's kind of my point here, is to open your mind because, yes, that is true that is part of the elephant, but it's not the whole elephant. Just like double-butted adventures, yes, it's about 2 butts, but it can also be about the tubing that creates the tandem itself. Absolutely. And that there's no reason to fight over either one of those because they're both true.
Yes. And that's okay.
And it's great. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, wait a minute. So I said chapter. These are rules.
These are rules, yeah. Rule
Why
number 1.
Why do you call them rules?
So I found a fantastic publishing group, and it's called Little Rules Publishing. And this is kind of their format, where they do these 10 rules. At the end of every chapter, they have questions, self-reflection questions, and they give you a spot for journaling so that you can write down your ideas and things. The point of this isn't that I have the 10 rules. It's that these are things that I learned. These are my 10 rules. And I give you the opportunity now to write your own. Maybe open your mind isn't one you need. Maybe you've already got that one down. But something else that was said in that chapter made you think about something. And now you said, oh, what I really need to do is, maybe it was learn to listen more closely, whatever it is. And so I love the idea that these rules aren't rules like, Krystal, you have to follow my 10 rules because I know exactly what you need. Right. This is the things that I learned. I hope that they inspire you to learn something about yourself.
Yes. I like that because I think too many people get caught up in focusing on the result, the expected result versus the innovation and the creativity that you planted the seed for. That was the whole purpose. I love this.
Yeah.
That's great.
So when I found this publishing company, I knew it was the right place. I had put down, lessons learned or something is how I originally wrote it. And then I adjusted it to fit their format. And it was the right place for this book.
I agree.
And the more we talked, the more I knew that my book was going to be in good company in this publishing company versus just another memoir or just another inspirational book among a host of others that it was going to get lost in.
Wait to use that word twice, huh? Be in good company with this. Look at that. They say the network and those you surround yourself, produces really good results. So we were just talking about chapter 1, rule 1, and how that first rule or chapter will really end. I'm going to tell you right now, rule 2 had me too. So this one was expect setbacks. And I love this because I have a podcast episode called Expect the Expected.
Yeah.
Tell me about this because I want to know what you got out of it first.
apparently I'm a very naive person.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this idea that we would start practicing. So we did a lot of practice rides and made sure that our equipment was working. And I thought that each practice ride would get us a little closer to our goal, and that it was going to be this beautiful, straight upward line. That we weren't going to have any real setbacks. Oh, maybe we'd have a rainy day, or maybe we'd have a flat tire, but it wasn't going to be anything significant. It was just going to be this beautiful, straight uphill line until we're at our goal. And then we did a practice ride in which we didn't get more than 1.5 miles. Our gears were not working correctly. Bruce was flung over the front of the handlebar, half dead. I was sobbing because I knew it was all my fault because I was still learning, and, there's no way that this could be anybody's fault but mine. And I had promised everyone that in my blog that I would write the truth. And I really considered not telling anyone how bad this ride had been, because the day before I had talked about we were going on this 26-mile ride. It was around this loop in Maine, and it was going to be fabulous. And I was so excited about it. And we didn't do it. We couldn't do it. Right? And so I could have just not said anything. But I thought, no, I'm going to be honest. And so I did. I went out there and I was really honest. And I would love to tell you that that was the only setback, but it wasn't. We had setback after setback after setback. They happened throughout the entire trip. It looked more like a tangled knot with a beginning end, this tangled knot, and then the goal. And we made it to the goal. But it wasn't pretty. Right. There wasn't anything beautiful about this. It wasn't a nice straight line. It wasn't even a couple of little zigzags. It was just a big knotted mess of mess. But the truth is that isn't that kind of the way life is anyway?
It is.
We need to expect that it isn't going to be perfect, that things are going to get in our way, that the roadblocks are going to happen. It's what you do with that. Do you go over it, around it, through it, push it out of the side, come to a new goal, what are you doing with that setback that matters? And that's actually, I think, where you do your growth. If everything was nice and simple and straight and even and went from your idea to your goal and you didn't struggle, what did you learn? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, you probably didn't even need that to be a goal if it was that easy.
Yeah.
Right? Oh, we had flat tires. We had horrible weather. We had roads that were missing.
Yes.
Because they had dug it up. We did this during COVID. So we would get to places that weren't open anymore.
Yeah.
And here you think you're going to have a nice lunch and the whole town is closed up and there is no lunch to be had. All of those things that happened over and over and over again, you just kind of had to figure out, well, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
How are you going to move forward?
I love this. You are the epitome, as many others are, of emotional resilience. Seriously, I harp on this brand because it's about how we bounce back from adversity, from challenges, from the struggle, and so on and so forth. That's the true test. Yeah. It's not flourishing when everything's perfect under the perfect conditions. That's easy. Experience. Yeah, it's not exposure. That's not anything. And so what I do like is celebrating small milestones, because you mentioned that. It was just, okay, we got the flat tire, but we were able to change it. We were able to figure out what
to do next.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
How to move on.
Yes.
How to get to the next point.
Yes.
What to do when riding was impossible.
Yeah.
We had one place where they had torn up 10 miles of road.
God, what'd you do?
Cars were going through it. Down on that dirt bed and the dust and the poof. We could have never ridden that. No. We got someone to take us across.
Golly.
We found someone who had a pickup truck who stuck all our gear in it and hauled us through that 10 miles of misery.
Yeah.
Dropped us off on the other side and on we went. But when you first find out that the road is torn up for 10 miles.
Yeah.
Now, my husband, he was so good. He would just take these things so in stride, and I'm the one that falls apart. I stand on the side of the road going, what are we going to do? And then I have to have a good cry.
Yeah.
Life is over as we know it.
Yeah.
And then I take a deep breath and say, okay, stop with the antics, Teri. What are we going to do about this? What needs done? And then my logical brain can kick in. So I always have to let all that emotional garbage just go ahead and do its thing. And then I can say, all right, how are we going to handle this? And the first few times I did that, my husband wasn't real sure what to do with me. You can imagine we're standing on the side of the road. I'm sobbing. I can't go any further. All this stuff. And he's standing there like, oh no, what are we going to do? And then as soon as I'm done, I would say, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
And I'd be getting back on the bike and he's looking at me like, what just happened?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
right. But he soon learned this is just how Teri does life.
Yeah. Yeah.
She needs to experience all the emotional impact.
Yeah.
And then I'm very practical because he looked at me and he said, get back on the bike. I said, well, yeah, we can't stay here. I mean, the hotel's 12 miles from here. This is on the side of the road by a cow pasture. Like, we can't be here. And he's like, okay then, and off we go on the bike. So, but it just took me getting over the woe is me. I can't believe this has happened. And I hated myself for that for so long. And then I realized I'm just emotional. And I'm emotional, good and bad. I laugh, I cry, I see vivid colors. I also see bleakness and blackness. I see it all. If I didn't see the negative, I don't think I would see the positive. If I didn't feel that negative, I wouldn't feel that positive. I've come to kind of accept this is just part of me. Mm-hmm. Yes, I do have these explosive, oh my gosh, life is over. But I get to the point where I can say, okay, it's not really over. What do we need to do to get from here to there? And then I go ahead and take care of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You got to appreciate the contrast. You
Yes.
really do.
Yeah.
I love that. And you know what else I really liked is just, oh man, we try to bottle up our emotions all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we do that and then all of a sudden it blows up, I think getting it out and allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to feel that way for that moment and get it out, because I'm not going to be able to look forward because I'm still thinking about what I had to keep in.
Exactly.
I love that.
I've been told my whole life, you're too emotional.
Yeah.
And so I took that as a fact that I was too emotional. And I've finally come to realize, no, I'm not too emotional. I'm emotional.
Yes.
I'm not too anything.
Right.
And I have ways that I deal with that. And that's by going ahead and feeling it and letting myself wallow in it. But I never wallow for long. I don't like wallowing. Once I've gotten it out of my system, I do kind of look at myself and say, okay, there's enough of that. Let's move on.
Yeah.
But if I don't go ahead and do it, all those thoughts are tainting me moving forward.
Correct.
Because I'll say, okay, so what we really need to do is, and I'll have a thought, and all of those emotions are going, but you can't. It won't work. You're terrible. It's going to be horrible. And that's what's yelling. So if I go ahead and get all that out first, then when I'm making a plan, I'm not dealing with all of the naysayers in my head that are telling me it's not going to work.
Yes.
I've already let them have their moment, and now they're done, and I can now move on to the productive side of me, which says, let's move forward. We have to go 12 more miles on the bike, get on the bicycle and start pedaling. That's what needs to happen now.
Talk about empowerment. That's it.
Yeah.
Well, this last question I want to ask you. So you write both fiction and nonfiction.
Yes.
What has it been the difference between writing those two, would you say?
So there is a difference. I mean, with my fiction, the characters are definitely part of me, but they're not me. And I can let them explore and do things that maybe I wouldn't do or I'd be afraid to do or I've never done. Whereas writing my nonfiction, it's all real. It's all me. The main character is me. There isn't anybody else. What I love about it, though, is that this is really what I call creative nonfiction. So it isn't just fact, fact, fact. It isn't, here are the 8 things that we did on day 12 of this journey. Instead, it's, while on this journey, here's some things that I learned, some experiences that I had, some things that I felt, and I can be my creative self as I'm telling you about them. I wasn't just standing on the side of the road, but I was standing on the side of the road in the only shade for 12 miles, and there were cows looking at me. Do you see what I'm saying? Where I can kind of bring in the whole creative part of the story. So I've liked both of them. I wonder if I'll ever do any more creative nonfiction in this vein, because I can't imagine doing another huge adventure like this. But then I've had other people tell me, oh, Teri, you've done so many cool things and you've had so many experiences that you could write about. And then they start naming topics. And it's like, oh, well, I guess maybe I could. I don't know. So, yeah.
You got a lot in you. You got a lot left going on. I appreciate the message of just embracing who you are. I really like that. Well, I tell you what, this was great. Like I said, it was empowering. And I hate to ask, or maybe I do. I love to ask. Let me say that right. Do you have any golden nuggets you want to add? Just a bit of ketchup for the folks.
Yeah, I think the thing that I've learned from all of this, because we should have never gone on this trip because it was COVID. People tried to stop us. What you may not know is in June of 2022, my husband was diagnosed with an incurable brain cancer. And he just passed away a few weeks ago. So after 31 months of fighting this, he finally succumbed to the cancer, which is a horrible disease. But we would have never gone if we had listened to the naysayers. And so I have learned that if you have something on your bucket list, get it off the bucket list and get it on your to-do list. Like start working toward it. If it is something that you really want to do, doesn't belong on some list you're going to do 20 years from now when the children move out and when you retire or when you have more money or whatever the roadblock is. If you want it, then make plans for it. Don't wait. You don't want to die with things on your bucket list that you wanted to do.
Yeah.
If it's one of those things where you think, then take it off the list completely and wait until it's something you want to do.
Right.
But, every year I like to put something on my list that's what am I working toward?
Yeah.
And I don't have bucket lists anymore because you just don't know. You don't know what next year is going to bring. So start working toward what you want now. Don't put it on some list that you never get to.
Oh, thank you for sharing that little tidbit. Rest in glory, Bruce. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
That's the episode today. What is really going through our minds when we are exhausted, disillusioned, demotivated, and hurt? This totally takes being down for the count to a deeper level. There is a slew of thoughts, reconnections, and reflections that we go through during that 10 count to pull ourselves back up to our feet. There's no real time frame for healing. Everyone has their own pace and process. Not to mention, there is no limit of times that we get knocked down, pause, and learn, just as long as we get back up. That's why I appreciate Teri for sharing her story and the journey to her 10 little rules for a double-butted adventure. That's right, that is the title of her new book with all the details to create your own. Sometimes it's not really about transformation, but a return back to who you always were, because you are good enough just the way you are. So how about it? Have you experienced a journey from your lowest point to reclaiming the highs of tackling the unknown? I love it all, and so will someone else. Before I let you go, Teri, why don't you go ahead and remind the people who you are, where they can find your resources, or reach out to you?
So I'm Teri Brown, and you can find me on my website, TeriMBrown.com. That's Teri with one R. There you can find, I've got links to all of the socials. You can get on my newsletter. You can follow my podcast. I'm actually a podcast host where I talk about other authors' books. And so if you're looking to add to that TBR pile, it's a great place to listen. And I even just have a contact page if you just want to reach out and ask me a question. And I always try to get back with people who reach out.
She does. I know. All right. I'll make sure to include all of Teri's resources and connections in the episode description, as well as on my website's resources page, movingwithmeaning.com. Make sure you guys subscribe to the show, Moving With Meaning, the podcast, and tap that alert bell so you know when these episodes drop. I am on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube Music. Please share, like, repost, and follow. Tag someone. We are creating a community. Quick housekeeping before you go. Follow me on Instagram at movingwithmeaning82 and on Pinterest at author KB Clark. Also, connect with me on LinkedIn. I do dabble in TikTok at Krystal B. Clark. My Etsy store has some handy dandy digital downloads. Lastly, run over to my YouTube channel and have a look or two. Links are in the episode. Alrighty, I'm Krystal on Moving With Meaning, the podcast, reminding you to take it one step at a time. All moves have meaning. Check y'all later.